What is up, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Tape Tomb, the show where we talk about some of my favorite horror movies in my VHS collection. I'm Larry Downs, and this week we trade in the tomb for a one-way ticket to paradise with the forgotten 70s rock opera, Phantom of the Paradise by Brian De Palma. Now, when you think of progressive 70s rock and roll musicals, this one probably doesn't come to mind first. And it's probably because it doesn't have Tim Curry or Meatloaf or whatever this guy's name is. But let me fucking tell you about this gem right here. It's got Mr. Paul Williams not only starring in it, but doing the music, an actual interesting story to follow, and a Phantom of the Opera-esque protagonist who looks like he spent the last few years touring with Parliament Funkadelic and smoking just as much crack. But before we dive into it, let's get into the guts. This movie is written and directed by Mr. Brian De Palma of Film Brat royalty. This is the 8th film that he made, and he would later go on to drop bigger bombs on us like Carrie, Mission Impossible, and Scarface. Starring in this psychedelic rock opera, we have Mr. William Findley, who peaked and beaked in this film. Mr. Paul Williams, who's a super famous songwriter who wrote hits like this one.
Someday we'll find it, the rainbow connection.
And Miss Jessica Harper of Tape Tomb fame. She's in a previous episode where we talked about the movie Suspiria. Go check it out after this one, it'll be a great time. But what's this movie about? Jam and a whole lot of glam, baby. Roll the film. This movie starts out with a greaser musical number provided by none other than the Juicy Fruits, the hottest band out there. The Juicy Fruits are Swan's #1 band in his label. Who's Swan? Swan is the man. He's the biggest producer out there, and he's ready to open his new rock and musical venue, The Paradise. He's just looking for the right sound and the right person to open it for him. That's when Winslow Leach comes in. Winslow is a true musical artist and a John Lennon wannabe with dreams of writing a cantata on Faust, a story about someone selling their soul to the devil. Definitely not foreshadowing. Swan loves the music, but not so much Winslow. So what he does is he gets his lackey to get Winslow's music from him in hopes of Swan making his big dream happen. But Swan has other plans for Winslow. He frames him and gets him sent to prison in Sing Sing, but that doesn't last long. Winslow breaks out in a rampage and tries to destroy Swan's headquarters as he gets stuck in a record press, permanently deforming him. As Winslow drags himself to the paradise, he finds a disguise and hides away. In his weakened state, Swan uses Winslow to create more music, but only under the deal that Miss Phoenix is the one that gets to sing it and to open the paradise. There's a lot to unpack with this one, but just believe that you are in for quite the story involving deals with the devil, revenge, and the riveting story of Winslow Leach fighting to get his voice back and save the one he loves. I think. Get on your dancing shoes and your best rhinestone-covered outfit. It's a wild party with Phantom of the Paradise. This movie just looks fantastic. Whether you're into the story or not, you can't deny that every single shot is just so dynamic. Nothing is done from a straightforward point of view, and all this does is emphasizes the costumes and the sets and makes this feel more than just a 70s rock and roll opera with a ton of bird references. Another plus to this flick is that all of the songs were actually written by Paul Williams and performed by the people performing the songs in the movie. And outside of being a movie with just beautiful costumes and sets, this has a great overall message about the music industry. This movie's point is that the music industry is just a money-making machine constantly cranking out whatever is popular and in some cases stealing the voices of the artists. Swan manipulates Winslow from the get-go, driving him insane to the point of the incident leading him to be the Phantom. And from that point, Swan basically owns Winslow. He hides him away in the paradise and feeds him drugs to make him work on his music. Not only that, but in this scene here, after changing Winslow's voice to his own, Swan pulls the plug on the Phantom, literally taking his voice away. Not only that, but those fucking sellouts, the Juicy Fruits, are used by Swan time and time again as he changes them to fit whatever the general public is into at that particular time. And you know what? I know this movie isn't as gory or aggressive as any of our other picks, but you know what? Sometimes we all just need a break and take a trip to paradise. For all these reasons and more, Phantom of the Paradise is a perfect fit for us here at the Tape Tomb. Here's some facts about Phantom of the Paradise. According to William Findley, the record press in which his character Winslow Leach was disfigured was in a real pressing plant. He was worried about whether the machine would be safe, and the crew assured him it was. The press was fitted with foam pads, and there were chocks put in the center to stop it from closing completely. Unfortunately, the machine was powerful enough to crush the chocks and it gradually kept closing. Luckily, Finley squeezed his head out of the press just in time, and the scream that we hear the Phantom give out right as his head's being crushed is actually Finley's scream. Swan is adjusting Winslow Leach's voice as he's working on his cantata, and the singer is not Findley but Williams. This makes it a little in-joke when Swan announces that the voice is, in fact, perfect. In an interview with the New York Times, the two members of Daft Punk actually cite this as one of their favorite movies of all time, and they actually got Paul Williams to be in one of their albums. Thank you all so much for tuning into another episode of the Tape Tomb. If you liked this week's episode, make sure you click that like and subscribe button down below, or leave me a comment telling me about what movies I should talk about in future episodes. Make sure you also tune into our sister series, Airlock Shock, starring Nick Haskin, every other week. He's always talking about really cool or really lame, which still makes them cool in our eyes, sci-fi movies, just like we do horror here at the Tape Tomb. Once again, I'm your host, Larry Down. Stay spooky, my friends, and I will see you in the sequel.